All right, let's talk about John Carpenter's The Fog. When I was a kid, I looked everywhere for this film because my stepfather, who I was scared to death of, told me it scared him when I was a kid, and I was like, holy shit, if it scared him, it's gonna just mortify me, which was bullshit because I never got scared at any horror movies. I looked everywhere, I finally found a copy, I watched it, and it was great. So let's get into this movie. We are talking about the 1980 version, not the remake. Oh my God. That is the worst remake ever. I am not opposed to remakes. I don't care if it's a good film, it's a good film, whatever. That is arguably the worst remake in history. No shit. So, first thing you want to talk about when it comes to a Carpenter film is A, the soundtrack. You know, the score that's done for this. One of his best. It's so damn good. I listen to a lot of horror themes when I write my scripts and my novels and whatever when I'm writing, and the Fog theme is one of those that I listen to a lot. Man, it's just fabulous. And this is such a great follow-up to Halloween because it's so different. It showcases John Carpenter's direction and his directing abilities so well in such a different way. In this film, you know, the Halloween and Assault on Precinct 13 and Dark Star were all like confined, claustrophobic, the threat is right around the corner kind of feeling. Like everything felt like it was closed in on you. Dark Star was in a tight little ship, and Assault on Precinct 13 was in a little, and even, you know, Someone's Watching Me was, you know, in an apartment, and Halloween was in a house with some kids, and they go over to the next house, and everything was very confined. In this movie, you know, we get a lot of wide shots. Everything feels open. You know, we get long, wide shots of the beach and the ocean, and, you know, the lighthouse at the bottom of that long stairwell, which is the site I want to visit more than anything. Like if I could see any place in horror history in person, I want to go to see that lighthouse. One day I will make it happen. It's in California, which is only one state over, so I definitely have to make that happen. But I think this was a really cool, smart choice for the next film. He didn't just like jump onto like Halloween 2 or like make another slasher type film. Like he made a ghost story. And I think that this film plays out kind of like a campfire tale, and I think that's why the opening is so, you know, effective, and it just feels in place when you're watching the movie. Like he tells that tale, and I know that wasn't even added in until after the film was done, but it's such a great way to start this film. And while I'm watching the film, it plays out like a campfire tale, like kids sitting around a campfire and being like, you know, these guys were betrayed, they stole his gold, he comes back to haunt, he lives, you know, their crew lives in the fog, they can only come from 12 to 1. It's just, it feels very much like a campfire tale, so I just love that it starts with that. And man, we get a whole laundry list of Carpenter alums here with Jamie Lee Curtis and Adrienne Barbeau, who John Carpenter himself was married to at this point, and Charles Cyphers comes back again, and Tom Atkins and Nancy Loomis and even Janet Leigh and George Buck Flowers' first film with Carpenter. They had a long career together, as much as Kurt Russell, and John Carpenter himself makes an appearance here. And there's a lot of names that also come from other, you know, from other Carpenter films, like Dick Baxter and Nick Castle and Dan O'Bannon. We even get a Dr. Phoebes, you know, in this movie. So there's a lot of names that are callbacks to other things. So it's always fun to hear those little things, and it's like that little inside thing, a little wink to the audience of the geeks like us. They're like, oh, I know who Nick Castle is. Oh, Dick Baxter, I know that name. That's, you know, Annie was suggesting Laurie goes out with him. And John Carpenter's name is Bennett, so Bennett Tramer maybe. So we get Dick Baxter and Bennett. So yeah, I like little stuff like that. It reminds me of like Quentin Tarantino. A lot of the same names used over and over. It just feels like little Easter eggs for fans like us, because the majority of audience, they don't even hear that stuff. They don't care. But man, the wide shots in this are just gorgeous. I love all of that stuff. And the, you know, I talk about time periods and how when you're watching them, you can just tell the time period in which it was shot in. When Nick pulls over, or Tom Atkins pulls over to pick up Jamie Lee Curtis, Elizabeth, he gets her in the front seat and starts driving away and just pulls up a beer and starts drinking it and offers it to her, and she's so whatever about it. She's like, yeah, I'll take a drink. Like, just drinking and driving right there. Not only is he just drinking and driving like in the universe and no one cares, but he's like doing it on screen, and it's just like not a big deal at all. Which, when I was growing up, my dad drank all the time when we drove. He would pull over at the drive-through liquor store, which we still have here in Arizona, by the way. Figure that one out. And he would just get a big tall can, a thick, big can of Foster's, and you just crack it and you drink it all the way home. And it's just, when I see this, it's like, yep, that's the 80s for you. Adrienne Barbeau has the best voice for the radio. Man, her Stevie Wayne voice, because she changes it throughout the film. And she has zero interactions with the cast in this film. Outside of her son and a couple of the, you know, the ghost crew, she has no interaction. So that's really interesting to watch. Like, wow, she really never talks and is physically interacting with anyone in this movie, and she's like the star. And the other stars, like Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins, never meet her. No one does. Not many movies are like that. And if you're listening on the radio, you hear the Coupe de Villes mentioned, which is John Carpenter's band. If you ever want to see something hilarious, look up the Coupe de Villes Big Trouble in Little China music video. Oh my God, is it laugh out loud hilariously awful. A lot of neon colors being used here, especially like in the cars and in the weatherman stations and all that. You get the really bright reds and the really bright greens. Always a fan and a sucker of neon colors. Just love the whole idea of like ghost pirate type characters in the fog, and the way that they look with their glowing eyes, and you know how when they leave, everything seems to be like it's been sunk under the ocean for weeks, months at a time. When they find their bodies, like cuts are filled with algae and soot under their nails, and it adds to the lore. It adds to the intrigue of the monsters, the villains, whatever you want to call them. Tom Atkins, they just must think that's like the sexiest dude ever. Like Carpenter and his crew seem to just always throw him in some movie where he's fucking like some 20-year-old girl in 10 minutes after he meets her. That guy is, to them, seems to just be the James Bond of the Carpenter verse. And you know, it's just funny because he's like in bed with her, and he's just like, after they've had sex and they're going through the thing, he's like, so what's your name? So this guy is just, he is getting it in quick style. What the hell is a stomach pounder? Like, I think I looked this up once and I'm forgetting now, so can please someone tell me? I could Google it after this, but it'd be fun for someone to tell me. Mom, can I have a stomach pounder and a Coke? For breakfast? A stomach pounder and a Coke? I don't know what a stomach pounder is. I can't remember, but it doesn't sound like breakfast. Coca-Cola definitely shouldn't be drank for breakfast. Drinked? No. Drank for breakfast, nor do I think Coca-Cola should be drank ever. But I just, every time I hear it, I'm like, what the fuck is a stomach pounder? And we even get another name. Sorry, Tommy Wallace. You know, Tommy Lee Wallace, who directed Halloween 3 and married Nancy Loomis. And I think some of the problems that I have with this film, you know, because the direction here is great. I love the majority of this film. I think the script is a little weak, honestly. And one of the problems I do have with the movie is, you know, Stevie Wayne knows that the fog is potentially hurting, killing people, whatever, and she's like freaking out on the radio and calling out and like telling Miss Kobritz to lock her kid up, and telling Nick Castle, who she's never met, who she knows literally nothing about, and she's telling him on the radio, hoping that he possibly is listening, that her son's in danger. And she does like mention like she can't leave because she needs to tell everyone and warn everyone, but it's like, in reality, as a parent, I don't give a fuck. And I'm telling you this as the viewer. If it came to you, like between you and my child, you know what I would pick. Like, that's silly. So when I'm watching this and and she's like, thinks her child is in danger, she leaves it up to complete chance that a man she doesn't know is listening to the radio, and that Mrs. Kobritz is also listening to the radio. So that is just weird. And honestly, it almost feels like, because of that, in addition to the film itself, it feels like Adrienne Barbeau, or you know, Stevie Wayne's character, is very much disconnected from the film. Like, it feels like she's in one film and everyone else is in another film. Because a mother thinking her son was in danger would instantly rush off to try to save the kid. Like, she has no idea if her son is okay. Even at the end of this movie, she's not aware if her son's okay or not. Like, she goes back and gets on the radio and does her little ending, closing monologue, and it's like, you don't even know if your kid's okay. Like, the phone lines are still down. They cut the phone lines. It's not like they just miraculously came back up because the fog went away. Like, so that part really takes me out of it. And as I said, she's so disconnected from the rest of the film. Now, when they disconnect her in that way as well, I'm just like, I'm not feeling that you're part of this movie. I feel like I'm watching two separate films at once. Both good movies, but separate. So anyway, I don't know. That bothers me when I watch it as a parent. Maybe not as a parent, you'll be like, gives a shit, fuck that kid. All he wants is stomach pounders and Cokes anyway. And as I said, the look of the ghost is just great. I love the way they look in the fog, especially when they're, you know, in the church and they get that you know, wide shot of them and they're all standing and you can like kind of make their outlines out. And even when like they're killing the crew out on that ship, what the hell's that ship called? Jesus Christ, I just watched the film, people. Can't remember at the moment. Seagrass. There it is. All those shots of them are wonderful. And the ending's good too. I'm not a huge fan of like the one last scare, one last kill, killer pops out again thing, but it works here. Like, they said 6, they getting 6. So, all right, guys. Anyway, it is time for me to go escape from New York.